Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're getting into something many of us have felt. Why do corporate diversity efforts sometimes feel so hollow? We're going to break down what the research says actually works when it comes to building a workplace that's truly inclusive. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start by defining a problem that's all too common. Then we'll look at some really clear evidence from a workplace study. After that, we'll dive into a powerful new model for leadership, see how it works in the real world, and wrap up with the big takeaway. All right, first things first. Let's put a name to that feeling you get when a company's diversity message just doesn't quite line up with what you see. And that name is woke washing. It's a term from research by Kafka, and it perfectly captures that frustrating gap between what a company says about social justice and what it actually does. You know, it's all talk and no walk. So that brings us to the real question, doesn't it? If you're on the outside looking in, maybe hunting for a new job, what clues actually tell you if a company is serious about diversity? Is it the mission statement, or is it something else? Well, luckily for us, a fascinating study put this exact question to the test. And let me tell you, the results are crystal clear. So here's what the researchers did. It was pretty clever. They had job applicants look at a company profile. They mixed and matched different mission statements. Some were about multiculturalism, some were colorblind, and others were pro-BLM. Then they showed them one of two photos of the executive team. One was mostly white, the other was racially diverse. And the results? Whoa. Just look at this chart. For Black and Hispanic/Latinx applicants, the chance they'd apply skyrocketed when they saw that diverse leadership team. And here's the kicker. The mission statement? It barely made a difference. The action, who the company actually promoted to the top, spoke so much louder than any words they could write. And this really gets to the heart of it. Seeing people who look like you in charge sends this powerful, undeniable signal of authenticity. In a world where every company says they're committed to justice, the visual proof of who holds power becomes the only evidence that really matters. But let's dig a little deeper. Why? Why is seeing a photo so much more powerful than reading a statement? Well, it turns out it hits on three really deep psychological needs. First, there is something called identity threat. If you don't see anyone like you at the top, this little voice can pop into your head wondering, will I be judged by stereotypes here or for my actual talent? Seeing diversity in leadership just silences that voice. Second is psychological safety. This one is huge. It's that feeling that you can bring your whole, authentic self to work, you can speak up, you can even mess up, and you'll be okay. A diverse leadership team is a pretty strong hint that, yeah, this is a place where different kinds of people can thrive. And finally, it all comes down to trust. It is just really hard to believe a company's promises about fairness when the people making the decisions all look the same. Diverse leadership is basically a down payment on trust. It's proof the company is putting its money where its mouth is. Okay, so if performative statements are not the answer, what is? Well, this is where we get to explore a totally different and frankly, much more effective model for leadership. This quote from Elizabeth Holcombe and her colleagues just nails it. They argue that you can't have a real equity agenda without having a truly collaborative way of making decisions. This is the core idea behind what they call shared equity leadership, or SEL. It's about taking DEI out of some isolated department and weaving it into the very DNA of the entire organization. Now, SEL isn't just some nice, fuzzy concept. It's a real practical framework. It's built on three pillars that all have to work together to create change that actually lasts. So what does this look like? Think of it as a three-part process. It all starts with a personal journey for each and every leader. That personal work then feeds into a set of shared values that guide the whole team. And finally, you turn those values into concrete, everyday actions that change the system itself. The first pillar is the foundation. It's all internal. It starts with individuals committing to their own ongoing journey of learning and self-reflection. Because here's the thing, you can't fix a system you don't understand, and you definitely can't lead others toward equity if you haven't done that personal work yourself. Now, once that personal work is underway, the group can build a set of shared values. And these are not your typical corporate buzzwords on a poster. We're talking about things like humility, vulnerability, and mutuality, this idea of working with people, not for them. These values become the group's true north, guiding every decision they make. And pillar 3 is where the rubber meets the road. This is where those values get turned into action. It means actively questioning the status quo. It means redesigning your hiring and promotion processes to be fair and transparent. It's about building the structures that make equity the default, not the exception. So, when you put it all together, the research on what doesn't work and the research on what does, what's the big takeaway for anyone who wants to see real change happen? It really comes down to a choice between two paths. The first is the path of signaling. It's all about messaging and public statements, and as we saw, it often breeds distrust. The second, much better path is structuring. This is about focusing on the actual mechanisms, on shared responsibility, and on concrete practices that genuinely build trust and safety for everyone. So, the crucial shift, the game changer, is moving from performative messaging to embedded cultural mechanisms. It's about stopping the obsession with crafting the perfect statement and starting the hard work of building the systems that make equity inevitable. And I think the researchers behind shared equity leadership just say it perfectly here. It requires leaders to actually show up differently. It's a new way of being, not just a new set of talking points. And that leaves us with one final, very powerful question to think about. When you look at your own workplace or any company you interact with, ask yourself, are they just signaling or are they truly structuring for equity? The answer to that question tells you everything you need to know.